And I know that's quite different to what many universities chose. Online communication and online collaboration underpinned our whole community. Now, you heard Prof. Mansour talk about the use of Teams, and that was integral for our staff to be able to communicate. But for our students, we were using Collaborate Ultra, kind of similar to what Guido was talking about in terms of Big Blue Button. And of course, our VLE, our virtual learning environment, was fundamental to our communications with our students and keeping learning supported. So COVID brought forward our 5-year digital education plan by about 5 years. So instead of implementing that incremental change, we were in real big bang territory, rapidly responding to that changing situation. And similar again to what Prof. Mansour was talking about, a key decision related to assessment. We made a very early decision, probably one of the first in Scotland, to move away from face-to-face exams, moving instead to assessments that were based on coursework. So many exams were not used. And also then using take-home exams, which was an online exam where students had 24 hours to submit it. And that's quite a shift in how things worked, but that was absolutely underpinned by the pedagogy and the scholarly literature in the area of assessment. And the benefit of that approach gave both our staff and our students certainty at a time when things were very much up in the air. So when we were developing our policy and practice at pace, we really were underpinned by that scholarly literature and practice, both in terms of assessment, as I was just talking about, but also in terms of the wealth of literature around digital and online learning. We also were very fortunate to benefit from the shared practice of others within the online learning, distance learning, and digital education communities. So working across our global learning community, both inside the university and externally, helped us to ensure that our policies took account of the various different education regulators. We had to work with both regulators in Malaysia, Dubai, and Scotland, and also taking account of regulations in each of the locations that we're working. And underpinning all of that has been a real openness and sharing. We have drawn extensively from colleagues' work that's been licensed under Creative Commons, and in return we have shared our own resources as Creative Commons resources as well. So those are open and available to anybody to copy and use as you see fit. And I'm very happy to share them with you today. So at the heart of what we were doing has very much been people. It's very easy to get focused on the technology, but for us, people were at the core of our approach. And really, it was about care, kindness, and compassion for everybody. We really wanted, in a time when people, both our students and our staff, felt insecure, uncertain about what was going to happen, that they felt cared for and supported. And that was across all of our campuses. And that really informed our approach to supporting learning. Being one Heriot Watt meant pulling together, sharing our ideas and experiences. So we had the benefit of some people who had taught online previously, sharing their experiences, and then supporting those who were brand new to this. And we had a network of teaching for technology champions who really contributed to that and are still doing that. For us, a key focus has been maintaining connection. So bringing our students and teachers together to share their interest and their knowledge in a subject, rather than worrying about, Hollywood style production of, videos or that kind of thing. The focus is on the student and the subject first, with the technology as a tool to broker the relationship. And underpinning all of that has very much been well-being, so taking time to ask people, students and staff, how are you? No, how are you really? And that's paid huge dividends in bringing people together. And yes, it is difficult when you maybe feel like you're talking to a computer rather than to a real person. But we've worked really hard to support people to develop those skills that others were talking about in terms of being able to work online, to feel that human connection and to create that space to develop a shared sense of community as we all kind of rebalance both our personal and our professional lives. How do we work from home, as Sonia mentioned earlier? You know, what happens if your cat walks over your keyboard? You know, these are moments that actually make us human. You know, it helps us build connection, and that's really what our students want. They want to feel, you know, connected with each other and with us. However, as we know from our literature, building community online can be challenging. In a teaching context, it's really easy to revert to all of that interaction being solely between student and teacher, and losing that bigger community of peer support, students engaging with each other, where they're doing active learning, where they're learning from each other and co-constructing their knowledge. So creating a space for that to make that grow organically is really important. But community can't be imposed. It has to be something that develops, and it's about creating space for that to happen. For us, what we found is that a key concern for staff and students was feeling isolated, not being able to meet on campus, not making those connections as you pass in the corridor, that kind of thing. But those casual conversations don't need to disappear. They just move into a different space. So it's picking up in the VLE, in Collaborate Ultra for our students, in Teams for staff, and making the time to actually ping a note to your students and say, how are you doing? Do you want to have a drop-in session on Collaborate? I'm available at these times. So our teaching hours are still, you know, available to our students to be contactable. And it's very much been about engaging our students in active learning. However, there is a substantial fear factor, and we recognise that, and again, there's extensive literature on this. For us, it has been very much about supporting staff addressing those fears. So saying, no, we aren't expecting that Hollywood style video. You know, it's okay if you do a live session and just have a conversation. Teach your students the way you would always teach them. Share your subject knowledge, share your passion. And very much reassuring people that it's okay to experiment. It's okay to make mistakes, because that's part of the learning process. Reflection 6, technology can be an enabler, but also a barrier. And this has been a key concern for staff, because they've been really worried about accessibility. Will my students actually be able to get online? If they can get online, will they be able to engage? So for us, it's been about taking a universal design to learning approach. So reviewing all of our courses to look at accessibility in the widest sense, look at widening participation, making the most of assistive technology to support our students who need it. But fundamental has been using asynchronous sessions rather than always thinking we need to be live on video. And underpinning all of that is our virtual learning environment as the learning hub, where people can come together, whether they're on campus or online, they can come together in that virtual space and talk to each other. So my final reflection is about online and on campus. They're just learning spaces. I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, I don't want to be online, you know, this is awful, you're making me do this. Okay, the circumstances do mean that we do have to be online if we are in lockdown. But actually, it's just another learning space. It's the teaching that happens there that's valuable. So it's about designing well, whether you're designing for on campus or online. That design process is much more visible for online, but actually we should be doing it for on-campus teaching too. Wherever you're teaching, you need to be confident in the space you're in, which links back to all of the support that we put in place for our students and for our staff, making sure they're confident with the technology. And our approach this year has been decided. We are doing responsive blended learning. So that's standard blended learning as you would expect, but we have to be responsive to the different contexts that our students are in, bearing in mind we've got that global community that will have different circumstances. So as I mentioned before the session, we have students and staff on campus in Malaysia now, but we don't in Dubai and Scotland. So we have to be responsive to that as well. So my final reflections. Whatever you're doing, it is your teaching that will shine through in the space that you're working in. And we really need to make this work by working with people wherever they are. There's some that are new to online learning, there's some that are experts, but all of them need reassurance and support because of the unprecedented situation that we find ourselves in. And if I can leave you with the key message that we say to everyone when we are doing our support work, which is design your teaching with a strong pedagogical foundation, be your authentic self, and share your passion for your subject. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosemary, for that really wonderful presentation, which just, I think for me, reminded us about the human factor in all of this and how it's really important to remember that learning should come before online, or learning should come before face-to-face, and that's a really important thing. So thank you so much for that. We've had a lot of questions come in over the past few minutes and over the course of that presentation. So we've got around 20 minutes left in the session. So I'm just gonna group some of the questions together and then pose them to some of our speakers, depending on sort of the topics that they covered in their presentations. So I just actually want to start by going back to Rosemary for the first one, which is, I've just lost it, just bear with me 1 second. It was about peer-to-peer support. So how do you overcome the need for peer-to-peer support? And also linked with that was, what have students struggled with most? So I'm just going to pass that one over to Rosemary, if that's okay.
Sure. So in terms of peer-to-peer support, we are providing students with space in the VLE, so giving them discussion boards and Collaborate Ultra rooms, so virtual classrooms that they can use themselves, either so for social spaces, so like the clubs and societies will have their own social spaces on the VLE, and within courses, students will have their own space to meet in groups, as well as having space to bring students together from a course perspective, so whole cohort discussion or facilitating peer engagement in a virtual classroom. So when we're doing live teaching sessions, we're doing active learning. So think, pair, share, using the facilities in Collaborate Ultra to pair people up to have virtual chats, so DMing each other in pairs, bringing them into breakout rooms of small groups to come together and share their ideas, and then bringing them back to the main group to further share those ideas. So really trying as far as possible to facilitate that peer learning, and a strong message to them, you know, whether in the virtual classroom or in the discussion boards, we are not expecting your lecturers to give you all the answers. Talk to each other, pose questions to each other, respond to each other, and really try and build that peer community. And that's a strong message going both to staff and to students. What was the other half of that question? Sorry, Sonia.
I've just got it. What have students struggled with the most?
Yeah, I think some students have struggled with just getting time and space to, you know, engage. You know, we are all in fluid situations, so we have had some where they haven't just been able to either get space with an internet connection, or they haven't had peace, you know, at home. You know, some just haven't been in the headspace to be able to study, and that's totally understandable in the circumstances. So none of this has been really about learning and teaching. It's back to that humanity. So a lot of staff have been spending time just reassuring students that, you know, we're still here, we still care. You know, this is still a community for you. Even if you're struggling to submit an assignment or engage in the lectures, we still want to talk to you. What can we do to support? So that's been a key message of just, yeah, trying to be human, you know. And had a colleague in Dubai say, you know, they had students who were just so grateful for a phone call. You know, she'd phone just to say, how are you doing? And they're like, that's just, it's lovely that people care. So that's been a lot of the challenges have been around the humanity and the well-being, less about the teaching.
Brilliant, thank you. So the next question I'm going to put to Professor Mansour. So this is coming from somebody in this said, how has your university managed to maintain and improve your corporate image during COVID-19?
Yeah, very good question. I think this is again one of the things you have to measure. But if you refer back to one of my slides, see, we did not exclude the community at large. You know, we reached out to society by donation to support those who are facing difficulties because of COVID-19. If you refer back to what I mentioned, 5% to all students, that reflects back on their parents and their, you know, guardians. The 50% to frontline workers, you know, medical staff and nurses. That created an impact in society. These seminars and forums we've done, which are to deal with general things, also to deal with, one was specific about community engagement. You know, a university, obviously one of the pillars in a university is the community issue, community engagement. And you can never exclude that. You have to create that image that you care. And I think we have at Tahliya succeeded in presenting to the Bahraini society that we really care about you, and we care about, most importantly, we care about your children at Tahliya. And I would like to, you know, I like what Rosemary said, that, you know, some of them just require that kind of call or that kind of environment. The more you create a healthy environment for the people of your own, which is your faculty and students, and we have a verse in Arabic, the closer, then that impacts impacts the wider audience. I think we have succeeded, and I think it is just unfortunate, really, that we moved online at the same time there is a lockdown. But just imagine if we moved online and there was no lockdown, the impact will be less. But they both coincided, so there was a bit of confusion at the beginning. But really, I think Ahliya succeeded, and we are actually getting more applicants to join us next year. You know, I think we succeeded even better than normal. That's all I have to say.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So thanks for that, Professor Mansour. So the next question is a little bit more technical, so I'm going to put it to Guido at Ham Lipstadt, and it says, have students been using the full range of technologies? I found a lot of functionality is usually not used, but has COVID meant that it's been used to its fullest extent?
I think the teachers more use the full range, or are proved to to use the full range. The students are really good prepared to use, and are really open for technologies. The teachers are not in every case are supporters of technologies. You see it on my numbers of users, and I think a lot of students missed this personal feeling. Yes, this is a really big problem. You can't imitate it with things like this we do here. Yeah, it's not the same if we sit face to face and speak to another. And I think in teaching is the same. Yes, you can simulate very good, but it's not the same. And I think students want to come back to the campus. I think they want to make this blended thing, blended learning. I think it's a good model only for people who have. I told it something from illness or other obstacles, but not only.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So, Rosemary, in your presentation, you talked about One Heriot Watt and how you've got multiple different campuses, but they went into lockdown at different times, and also the fact that you were already going to implement your digital strategy this year, and then this kind of came out of nowhere. But we've got a question here that says, do you see this all as a way to provide even more common ground in international online programs?
Yeah, for us, it has been very much about that. So we already have a One Heriot Watt approach, so making sure that, for example, our Learning Teaching Week was timed, so sessions started at 8 and 9 in the morning, so that our campus in UK time, so that Dubai and Malaysia colleagues were able to attend. So we've got lots of things like that already. But from a teaching perspective, this has very much encouraged us to develop further our global teaching. So rather than having people teaching the same course on different campuses, they're all working as global teaching teams now, which means they can do some team teaching, which online works really well. Having two of you able to interact with your 100 or 200 students actually enables you to interact much better. But also it's about that sharing and developing practice. We can learn so much from each other. So that's been really effective. And it's also helped us widen our perspective. So engaging with the scholarly literature from people in different parts of the world has really broadened our perspectives as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I just want to go back to Professor Mansour. So I just want to go back to Professor Mansour with a bit of a difficult question, but it's been put to us, so I'm going to put it to you. And it's if we move towards all or more online teaching, as we have done this year, should we consider an impact on tuition fees for students?
Yeah, this is the question which has been raised throughout, and I think if we take it from a different perspective, moving online teaching does not really change much. I'll tell you, we call it online teaching, but the professor or the teacher is there, everything is there, and there is more investment in technology. Now universities have to move to investing more in technology. You need a team to assess and evaluate what to do next, which is the right tool, and what to do with these tools. It's okay you are using a tool, but who said this is the best? And who said you are using it in the best way? So I think there's a lot of emphasis and research should be focused on that. Preparing course material is the same. Preparing ILOs is the same. Preparing assessments is the same. The faculty, professor salary is the same. Possibly, actually it might be more costly in reality, because we have the campus running in any case. Although I anticipate, maybe if you look down, a bit further down in the future, the way I see it, I think just like all of a sudden AI is crept up and everybody's talking about AI and intelligence and stuff like that, I think the concept of a virtual professor which is generated from a smart book. So it's like if you reverse the concept, you know, where AI techniques are embedded into books, where things are generated. Maybe if the web becomes more smart, yes, then things will move. But in terms of tuition fees, I don't think the only thing is the campus. The difference is the campus. If the campus is there, what is the change? Everything is, you're actually investing more. And now, even I'll tell you something else, you know, these technology companies and software companies, they're going to upgrade software in different versions and you have to pay. And I want to add one more thing. You know, when you use software, there's the issue of licensing. You know, when you're teaching face-to-face, there's no license. Now you are faced with this license for every student, for every faculty. So, you know, we should think, okay, keep the fees the same. Let's hope they don't go higher rather than the other way around. But if in due course, you know, one day we have this hologram concept and things are projected in such an intelligent way and knowledge is generated through this virtual professor, then we will talk. But as in the foreseeable future, I don't think there is any change. Actually, there'll be more cost to universities, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I think that's it's a question which a lot of people have already been asking for a while and probably will continue to ask. So that was really great. Thank you so much. I want to put another question to Guido, and then I've just got a final one which I'd like all three of our panelists to answer just to wrap up. So firstly to Guido, just simply, you know, some people, some institutions were already well underway with online learning. Some it came out of nowhere and they had to adapt very quickly. But it was all because of a specific reason. But how do you see the future of online learning developing even further in a post-pandemic world when there isn't such an immediate need for it, but we're already well underway with what we already do?
Yeah, there are two things. First, you must know your requirements. You must know what do you need. I think it's different what Mr. Mansour needs. It is different what Rose need. It is different with what we need here. The big software companies build up systems and we can buy it. So my aim is more the open source way to get a basic thing, and then you can develop on your own and or with the help of a service provider your requirements you need for your university. I think this is the future, because it's also very hard to put all this software together. I think this slide from Mr. Mansour with all these different software things, there's Moodle, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. Yeah, you must decide which system you need or which system is good good for your requirements. And I think, and this is so our experience here, and have a lot of to do with this open source spirit to make these things on your own or with the help of service provider, but not with these big software things.
Great, thank you so much. And so the final question I just want to put to all three of our panelists, so we'll just take it in turns. Maybe if we go to Guido first, then Rosemary, and then we'll finish with Professor Mansour. Is purely a biased question from my point of view, which is in terms of international collaboration. Rosemary, you've already talked about international programs, but how can networks such as WTUN, which all three of your institutions are members of, help with this? How can they assist with this? Obviously, we're doing this series of webinars, which is specific to sharing best practice, but what else can this network and other networks do to help with this situation?
Yes, I have this technical perspective, and if somebody in this network have better or other experience, I really like to know. Yes, and because we told about this wide range of systems, yes, and everybody search for yes the great key for his problems, yes, and I think therefore it's really good, a network like this, and I really like to interact with all the other network people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with Guido. These networks are just invaluable places to share practice. So when you host sessions like this, when you develop case studies, that kind of thing, it's hugely useful. But it's also those personal connections that you make, you know, and being able to follow up on those afterwards, you know, finding out people who are doing things either that you want to be able to do better or that you're thinking about doing, and being able to learn from them, you know. And I know today I've already made quite a few connections that I'm hoping to follow up later, and just those things are invaluable, you know, and learning the similarities and differences of people's different practice is just hugely useful.
Okay, you want me to? Yeah, I think this is one of the first fruits of WTUN. You know, it's getting us together, and that's out of any organization or society, that's one major purpose, to get people together and to create the communication channel. This is one side. The other side, on the practical steps, I think you know, we need to compare notes. You know, through WTUN, we can take one theme at a time and let member institutions compare notes, you know, their experience. You know, for example, what Guido said about the technology, you know, we can compare what they did with what they've did, what we've done. The impact on students, they will have findings. You know, Rosemary talks about, you know, multi-campus issues. How does that compare with the same campus? You know, I think WTN can play a major role in this, and I think it can bring people together. We can compare policies. And if you remember one of my slides, I think, and it was also put by I think Rosemary in, I think, one of the points about the policies. You know, the policies are the most difficult thing to produce, because policies are generated, they are a projection of the future and they're a reflection of the past. So, and sometimes policies don't always work. You discover later you made a mistake. So if we can compare these policies, what Guido has done, what Rosemary has done in their universities, and maybe sometimes also you have a gap in policies. Some policies never thought of, and later through an incident you say, oh, I never had a policy. So there's, to sum it all, you know, comparing the use of technologies and tools, comparing the use of policies and, you know, projection of policies, comparing the impact on students and faculty and students' well-being, the use of campus, you know, the percentage, the ratio of blended learning, face-to-face with online, concept of transformation. I think WTN is I think can play a strategic factor, and I think it's already succeeding in doing this. And I think it will also, I think, if this is pushed a little bit more, it will encourage more institutions to join. And, you know, we are happy at Ahliya. We joined WTU, and we've already got some fruits out of that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a brilliant way to wrap up today's webinar. So I just want to take a moment to thank all of our speakers, so Mansour, Guido and Rosemary. Thank you for taking the time to share what experiences at your own institutions, and I really can see some definite collaborations and conversations going forward. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's joined us on the live stream, and thank you to everybody who submitted questions. We will be uploading this event on our website for people to view at a later date. And also, I just want to remind you that this is the first in a series of webinars. WTUN is hosting 2 more webinars, both of which are happening next week. So on the 28th next week, we have Technology, Universities and Research during COVID-19. And on Thursday, the 30th of July, we also have the mental health and well-being of staff and students during COVID-19. So we really hope to see you all there, where we'll have speakers from more of our members. Thank you very much again to all the technical staff at Alia University who've made this possible. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Nice to meet you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All the best. Nice to see you all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.